I never imagined that 30-hour work weeks would turn into something close to a second life, but that's exactly what happened the year I got hired at Willow Creek Estate. Most people in my hometown of Redford, Pennsylvania, considered the estate a luxury wedding venue, the kind you only book if your parents had a savings envelope labeled wedding fund. The place was beautiful, an old renovated barn with white beams, climbing ivy, exposed wood floors, glass chandeliers, and a hilltop view that made everyone say the same thing. Oh my God, this is straight out of Pinterest. But I didn't work the glamorous part. No wedding planning, no catering, no florals. I was the guy in the background. The one with a tool belt, keys hanging off my belt loop, and a job description that changed every 10 minutes. The owners, Rick and Lorraine Keller, were a married couple in their mid-50s who treated the place like their fourth child. They handled bookings, staff hiring, payroll, floral orders, bartending, even DJ backups. And when all that became overwhelming, they hired me. I wasn't a planner. I wasn't a decorator. I wasn't security. I was essentially the glue. A glorified handyman who also happened to be the last man standing after every event. That meant late nights. Sometimes until 3 a.m. Sometimes later. And I didn't mind it. In fact, I preferred being alone in the venue more than working with people. It was peaceful. I'd put my headphones on, clean, move furniture, fix what needed fixing, lock up, and go home. But the night I'm about to talk about, the one that still wakes me up at 3:17 a.m. for reasons I can't explain, began completely normally. Too normally. It was early September, peak wedding season, hot during the day, hoodie weather by 11 p.m., and the wedding we were hosting. Massive. The couple, Tessa and Logan Harrington, came from old money. Willow Creek had never seen a booking this large, 330 guests, 2 bars, a cigar station, a sparkler exit, a live band, and enough alcohol to drown a small village. When I arrived at 10 a.m. that morning, the parking lot was already full of vendors. I met Rick by the barn doors. He wiped sweat off his forehead and said, "Evan, my man, this one's gonna be a damn marathon." "Yeah, I saw the head count," I said. "You sure the place won't burst at the seams?" He laughed. "If it does, we'll rebuild it. Harrington money talks." His wife, Lorraine, popped out from behind a column with a clipboard nearly bigger than she was. "Evan, sweetheart," she said. "After midnight, when they're all gone, please double-check the hill path lights. 2 of them flickered during rehearsal dinner yesterday." "No problem," I told her. By 2 p.m., guests were arriving. By 4 p.m., the ceremony began. By 6 p.m., the drinking began. And by 8:30, the place was an active zoo. People were dancing on tables, glasses were dropping every 5 minutes. Kids were running in and out of the venue like gremlins. Someone spilled 2 pitchers of margaritas on the dance floor. A bridesmaid cried because her heel snapped. 2 groomsmen got into a shouting match over who could shotgun a beer faster. Typical big wedding chaos. I didn't mind it. I'd seen worse, but something felt different that night. Not supernatural, not spiritual, just off. Like the air was holding something it shouldn't. And for some reason, I kept looking toward the hill. Around 10:40 p.m., with people so drunk they were basically furniture, I slipped outside to the parking lot to take a breather. I had already set all the trash carts near the back door. But with 300 people still active inside, it was pointless to start cleaning. So I sat in my car, reclined the seat, and closed my eyes for what I thought would be 5 minutes. It turned into 42 minutes. When I jerked awake, the first thing I saw was the time glowing on my dashboard. 11:22 p.m. Shit. The wedding was scheduled to end at 11:45, meaning I had roughly 20 minutes before guests started getting ushered out. My stomach twisted. Not from panic, but from the knowledge that nights like this always ended with me working until sunrise. I got out, stretched, grabbed my headphones, and started walking up the hill. And that's when I saw it. Trash everywhere. I'm talking beer cans, napkins, bottles, plastic plates, confetti, the works. It looked like a college frat tailgate erupted in the middle of a wedding. and on the lawn, near the fire pit, a girl wearing a velvet dress was lying on the grass, dead asleep, clutching a champagne bottle like a teddy bear. Jesus, I muttered. Inside, the band was still going hard. People were shouting, chairs were flipped, food was smeared on the floor. Someone had used a linen tablecloth as a cape. Just another day at Willow Creek. Rick came up to me, face red and exhausted. "Evan, I'm so damn sorry, man," he said. "Look, I'll pay you a full extra shift, and you can take next Friday off." I exhaled. "Deal." He clapped my shoulder. "You're a lifesaver." They left around 12:20 a.m. After the first round of party buses loaded up 150 people, the second round left closer to 1 a.m. And by 1:15 a.m., everyone was gone, finally. I slipped in my headphones, picked up a trash bag and got to work. The kind of work I didn't mind. Quiet, methodical, peaceful. Until it wasn't. Around 1:50 a.m., while cleaning the kitchen hallway, my headphones died dead. Not even a beep beforehand. I groaned. This always happened during double shifts. I took the headphones off, set them on a chair, and grabbed my phone to switch to speaker mode. But when I placed the phone on one of the tables inside the main hall, I noticed the front door wide open. Not cracked. Not halfway. Wide open. And I knew, without a single shred of doubt, that I had shut it. I walked slowly toward the entrance. A cold gust of air pushed in from the darkness outside, carrying the smell of damp grass and cigarettes. "Hello?" I called out. No answer. "Anyone out there?" I tried again. Still nothing. I stepped outside and looked toward the hill. No movement. No voices. No shadows. The wind was strong. Maybe the latch didn't catch, I told myself. Maybe the wind pushed it open. It wasn't impossible. But something felt wrong in my chest, like a tiny needle of fear poking under my ribs. I shut the door again, locked it this time. Went back inside 10 minutes later, after hauling 2 trash bins toward the kitchen. The door was open again. My throat tightened. This time, it wasn't the wind. Had to be someone. "Rick?" I called out. "Lorraine?" Silence. "You guys here? Just say something." Nothing. The quiet felt thick, too thick. Still, I told myself not to be dramatic. Weddings leave people behind all the time. Someone drunk probably wandered back looking for their purse or phone. I shut the door again, locked it harder this time. Then I went back to finish the inside work. By 2:30 a.m., I was almost done. Only the kitchen remained. That's when everything went to hell. I turned off the lights in the main hall, grabbed my keys, and started walking toward the exit. I was roughly 30 feet from the door when something caught my eye. A reflection. Not from outside, from inside the building. The lights inside the hall were on. All of them. My stomach flipped. I had turned those lights off, I was sure of it. I rushed back, unlocked the door, and froze. A man stood in the center of the room, barefoot. No socks, no shoes, just bare, dirty feet on the wooden floor. He wore black suit pants and a wrinkled white dress shirt with the top buttons undone. His tie hung around his neck like he'd given up halfway through taking it off. But it wasn't his clothes that got to me. It was his eyes. Half open, glassy, vacant, like he was half asleep and half ready to kill. He swayed slightly like he couldn't stay balanced. I swallowed hard. Sir, are you okay?" His head jerked toward me, and in a slurred, angry voice he muttered, "Where's my jacket? Somebody took my jacket." I tried to stay calm. "Hey man, all right. Chill. I'll help you look for it, okay? Just stay right there." He blinked slowly. His hands twitched at his sides. Not fists. Just twitching like he was gearing up for something. I lowered my voice and pulled out my phone behind my leg so he wouldn't notice. "Let me call my boss," I said. "He might know where." That was when I heard it. The sound of bare feet slapping against wood. Fast. I looked up. The man was sprinting across the room, not toward me but away, toward the kitchen hallway, muttering, Where's my jacket? Where'd you put it? Where is it? And then he disappeared into the dark kitchen. My blood went cold. I immediately dialed Rick. Hey, Rick, there's a guy here, I said, pacing hard. A man, barefoot, he was inside. I don't know how he... Slow down, Rick said, groggy. What guy? One of the guests? I don't know, I don't recognize him. He's asking about a jacket. He ran into the kitchen. Rick cursed under his breath. Stay put. I'm coming down. Don't try to talk to him. I'll call the groom's party. Hurry, I whispered. Hurry, hurry, hurry. The kitchen was silent. Too silent. But I forced myself to walk toward the door anyway. I turned on the lights. Sir? I called. Look, you're not in trouble. Just come out and talk to me. Something scraped on the floor. Not footsteps. Something metal. Then, scampering, fast, bare feet again. And before I could react, the man lunged out of the dark with a steak knife swinging wildly. I threw my arm up, blocking the first swipe. The knife grazed my wrist, slicing through my sleeve. Pain shot up my arm. What the hell? I yelled. I stumbled backward, falling onto the floor, scrambling with my feet. The man screamed, a raw, guttural sound. Give me my jacket back! I kicked myself backward, crawled out through the kitchen door, and slammed it shut behind me. He hit the other side of the door immediately. Thud, thud, thud. Then the metal sound again. He was dragging the knife along the door. I held the door with my entire body weight, shaking uncontrollably. Rick, where the hell are you? I shouted. The man inside kept screaming about his jacket. The words slurred, broken, furious. The door shook harder. My heart pounded in my ears. Then, a voice behind me. Evan, move. Rick. Followed by another voice. Police. 2 officers rushed past me, guns drawn, shouting commands as they kicked the door open. Screaming erupted from inside. The man's voice, the officers' voices, the struggle, the crash of metal, and then, silence. Complete silence. I exhaled so hard I almost collapsed. The police escorted the man out in cuffs. He looked dazed, confused, like he didn't understand why he was being arrested. One of the officers said. He kept repeating the same thing. Something about a jacket. Rick shook his head. We'll talk to the groom. Maybe they know him. But when they called the groom's party the next morning, the news came back. No one at the wedding recognized the man. Not a single guest. Not a single vendor. So they checked the photos. Picture after picture. Nothing. Except one. A blurry photo near the end of the night. Taken by the cigar fire pit. Captured a group of wedding guests laughing. And way in the back, near the edge of the hill, a barefoot man in a wrinkled white shirt, walking toward the venue. The same man. No one remembered seeing him. No one invited him. No one knew where he came from, or why he fixated on a jacket that wasn't his. The police told us he had no ID on him. No phone. No wallet. Not even socks. Just a man who wandered into a wedding, hid in the venue, waited until everyone left, and attacked the only person still inside. Ever since that night, I stopped wearing headphones while working. I keep every door locked, even when I'm taking trash out. And every time I walk past that kitchen hallway, I swear I still hear it. The sound of bare feet slapping against the wood. Running. Searching. Looking for something that was never there. I never thought planning a wedding would feel like running a marathon with cinder blocks tied to my ankles. But that's honestly the best way I can describe the 6 months leading up to one of the happiest and most terrifying nights of my entire life. Before I dive into what happened, I think it's important to explain who I was before my wedding. Because the version of me back then was a different woman entirely. Naive, over-accommodating, overly trusting, and the type who tried to handle everything herself because I didn't want to bother anyone. My name is Jenna Rockwell, born and raised in Lakeshore Bend, Colorado, a quiet town right outside Denver where everyone knows everyone, and gossip spreads faster than wildfire. I've always been the planner in my family, the type who color codes grocery lists and alphabetizes her spice rack because it makes life feel less chaotic. And maybe that's exactly why the chaos hit me so hard I met my husband, Leo Harrington, 4 years before the wedding. He was the kind of guy who could talk to anybody, even strangers at the gas station. The type who used buddy and man in every conversation. He always tipped servers 25% even when the service was awful. He had a good heart. Too good sometimes. Leo believed in people. I, on the other hand, believed in caution. And that combination, it almost destroyed our wedding day. Leo and I had a simple plan. Small wedding, outdoor ceremony overlooking Pinewood Lake, close friends and family, nothing over the top. But as the months went by, the simple parts weren't simple. I didn't mind doing the heavy lifting, but one thing I delegated to Leo, just one, was the photographer. I even gave him a list of people with solid reviews, portfolios, everything. All you gotta do, I told him, is pick someone from this list. They're all within budget. You literally cannot go wrong. And he smiled at me with that goofy, crooked grin and said, "Baby, I got you. I'm not gonna screw up the one job you gave me." Spoiler alert, he absolutely did. One Thursday evening, Leo walked through the front door grinning like he won a Vegas jackpot. "Jen, you're gonna love me," he said, dropping his bag on the floor. "Found the photographer, under budget. Great guy, my coworker knows him." My heart instantly sank. "Your coworker knows him?" I repeated slowly. "What does that even mean? Did you see his work?" "Yeah, he showed me photos on his phone. They were artistic." Artistic? That word already made my stomach twist. "What's his name?" I asked. "Riley Shore." At first I didn't think too much of it. Just another freelance guy trying to make a side hustle. But something about Leo's tone bothered me. He spoke about the guy with that same blind trust he gave to every stranger holding a door open for him. I asked, "Where's his website? Instagram? Anything?" Leo hesitated for half a second. "He doesn't have one. But he's legit. He's done weddings before. Riley just doesn't really do the whole social media thing." "Leo." I rubbed my forehead. "That's not normal in 2025. He shrugged. "Come on, babe. You know I wouldn't book a weirdo. Just trust me." I did trust him. Despite my instincts screaming otherwise, I agreed to meet the guy. Worst decision of my life. We met Riley at Pinewood Park, where our ceremony would take place. The sun was setting behind the pines, which cast long shadows across the picnic area. Riley walked toward us wearing scuffed brown boots, jeans that were way overdue for a wash, and a faded black hoodie even though it was 82 degrees. His hair was greasy, falling over his forehead in clumpy strands. But the thing I noticed first? His fingernails. Long. Dirty. Jagged. The kind of nails you'd expect on someone who doesn't wash their hands ever. He didn't smile when he approached us. He didn't even greet us. He just nodded, mumbled, "You must be them," and stared at me longer than anyone should stare at a stranger. Something was wrong. I knew it. My body knew it. But Leo, completely oblivious, held out his hand. "Riley, right? Thanks for meeting us." Riley glanced at his hand, hesitated, then shook it like he hadn't touched another human in weeks. I forced a polite smile. "Do you have your portfolio? We'd love to see some of your work." He grunted something under his breath and opened the folder on his phone. The first images made my stomach turn. Photos of abandoned houses, rusted playground swings, dead deer on the side of a road. Not exactly wedding vibes. I cleared my throat. Do you have any wedding photos?" He swiped, slowly, like he wanted to drag out the moment. Eventually, he showed me 3 pictures of a couple standing by a barn, admittedly beautiful shots. For a moment I relaxed, but then he said quietly, "I like capturing people when they don't pose. Makes them real. Makes them honest." The way he said honest, it chilled me. We wrapped up the meeting fast. On the drive home, Leo tried to reassure me. "Jen, the pictures were good. The dude is just introverted. He's not gonna bite." I stared out the car window and whispered, "Yeah, I hope not. A few weeks later, my bridal party and I went to Seabrook Pier, South Carolina for my bachelorette weekend. We rented a beachfront condo and planned to spend the weekend relaxing, swimming, drinking, and pretending adulthood didn't exist. Everything was perfect until Saturday afternoon. My friend Tori suddenly froze, sunglasses halfway down her nose. "Yo, Jen, don't freak out, but I think there's some dude taking pictures of us from the dunes." I laughed it off. Beaches always had photographers, probably some dude doing a nature project. But then Tori whispered, "He keeps aiming right at you." My throat tightened. "Let me see." I turned toward the dunes, and there was a man, standing half-hidden near the condo railing holding a camera aimed directly at us. "Probably a tourist," I said, trying to calm myself. But Tori shook her head. "Nah, he's not acting normal. He's like, locked on." My heart pounded. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but Tori and Kaylee went to confront him anyway. As they approached him, I watched their expressions shift. Confusion, then disgust. The man apologized and walked off. They came back shrugging. "He said he was taking photos of the waves," Kaylee said, rolling her eyes. "But dude was weird and his fingernails were nasty as hell." My blood ran cold. Dirty nail guy, photographer, following us? No. No way. That would be insane. I tried to shake it off. Until that night around 1 a.m., after we returned to the condo, changed into pajamas and made drinks, we were laughing over some dumb story when, bang, 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 a knock at the back sliding door. We all froze. Tori whispered, "No way. Nobody knocks at 1 a.m. on vacation." We peeked out. Nobody was there. We locked every door and went to sleep, nerves on edge. 30 minutes later, a scream ripped through the condo. Kaylee. We raced into the living room and saw a man standing in the middle of the condo, camera in hand. Lens pointed at us. And it was him. Riley Shore. He lifted the camera like nothing was wrong. "Relax," he said in a flat voice. "I figured y'all might want some pictures. I'm working. Just working." Tori grabbed a kitchen knife and chased him out while he stumbled over furniture, yelling, "I'm trying to help you. You don't have to be scared." We called the cops. Riley was arrested the next morning. He told them, "I wasn't breaking in. I was capturing moments. They should be thanking me." You know what's horrifying. He believed it. When I got home the next morning, exhausted and shaking, I told Leo everything. He went pale. "Jen, I swear to God I didn't know. I would never put you in danger." I believed him. But I was angry. Angry that he trusted someone based on nothing. Angry that he ignored all the warning signs. We found a new photographer, Eva, a sweet older woman who had a real studio, real reviews, and didn't break into beach condos. Riley was charged with trespassing and harassment. But part of me still felt unsafe until the wedding day came. Yes. He came back. Even after being arrested. During the reception, while everyone was dancing, I stepped outside to catch my breath. And behind the tree line, I saw someone holding a camera, not moving, just standing there. My blood iced over. But when I blinked, he was gone. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was trauma. Maybe it was my nerves. Either way, that moment taught me a lesson I will never forget. You can't trust everyone just because they smile at you. Leo apologized. For months he kept saying, "I was trying to save money," or, "I thought I was helping you." I forgave him. People make mistakes. But I learned to always, always meet the people you hire. Check their background. Trust your instincts. Because someone who seems off is usually off for a reason. And if we hadn't chased Riley out of that condo, I don't want to imagine what could have happened. I never thought the quiet coastal town of Gray Harbor, Maine, the kind of place where people leave lawn chairs on the front porch overnight without worrying someone will snatch them, would be the setting of the worst night of my life. If anything, the town always felt too safe, too calm. too postcard perfect for anything genuinely horrifying to ever crawl inside it. But horror doesn't always come smashing in like a storm. Sometimes it slips through a door you forgot to lock. And I'll admit that part. It was my damn fault. I moved to Gray Harbor when I was 27, a year after my mom died. I needed something quieter, after years of bouncing between night shifts at hospitals in Boston. I rented the last house at the end of Cranberry Point Road, a dead-end street that opened straight into the woods. Locals called it the safest dead end in the county. People joked that the only thing dangerous in Gray Harbor was the fresh sea breeze. It made you lazy. I'd been dating Lindsay for 2 years at that point. She didn't live with me, but she spent most weekends at my place. I had recently bought her an engagement ring. It had been sitting in my sock drawer for 2 months waiting for the right moment. She had no idea. That night, October 14th, was supposed to be a normal night. I had just finished a brutal double shift at Harbor Medical, 12 hours straight. All I wanted was bad takeout, a hot shower, and an hour of mindless TV before crashing. Lindsay wasn't there. She had driven to New Hampshire to help her sister with wedding planning stuff. Ironically, that's the part that haunts me most now. Weddings. I didn't know that someone else's wedding was about to rip through my night. I was tossing vegetables into a skillet, half asleep on my feet, when my phone rang. Unknown caller. 8:13 p.m. Probably a wrong number, I muttered. I picked it up. Hello? Nothing. Just a sharp inhale on the other end. Then a sudden click. I frowned. Weird. If I had known what was coming, I would have driven straight to a hotel. The rest of my night went exactly the same as every exhausted night before. Eat clean, shower, bed, TV until my eyes shut. I put on The Wire and let the familiar Baltimore streets blur into the background. I remember thinking, damn, I've seen this show way too many times. Within minutes, I knocked out cold. When I woke up, the room was completely dark except for the faint reflection of the paused TV episode. My mouth was dry. My head felt heavy. I had apparently slept through 2 episodes. I felt around for the remote, trying not to open my eyes fully. My thumb found the button. TV off. Silence. Real silence. That's when I heard it. Creak, soft, slow, from the hallway. I opened my eyes fully now, heart already speeding up. The sound came again, wood bending lightly beneath weight. Not like the house settling. More like footsteps. Hello? I called out, my voice still groggy. No answer. I sat up, squinting. The room was dark, but not pitch black. I could see the faint outline of my bedroom furniture. Then I saw it. A shape. A figure. At the far corner of the room near the dresser. Wide. Still. Wrong. At first I thought I was half dreaming. The shape looked like someone standing there watching me. My fingers tightened around the remote. Hey, who's there? Nothing. My pulse hammered as I pointed the remote at the TV to turn it back on. I figured the blue glow would let me see whatever was in the room. But before the screen even lit up, I heard breathing. Not mine. Slow. Wet, shaky. And then, the TV flicked on. Blue light flooded the room. And I saw her. She was standing not 10 feet from my bed. A woman. In a wedding dress, a full old-fashioned gown with lace sleeves and a wide skirt that brushed the carpet. Her veil hung low over her face, covering everything except a pale chin and the faint outline of lips that didn't seem to close properly. My mouth opened, but I couldn't speak. I froze. My body literally refused to move. The woman tilted her head the way you'd tilt your head at a dog you didn't understand. Slow. Assessing. Wrong. Ma'am. I choked out. Who are you? What the hell are you doing in my house? Her voice came out as a whisper, but it sounded like it scraped its way up her throat. Where is my groom? My stomach dropped. Ma'am, you need to leave, okay? You can't be here. She took a step toward the bed, then another. Her shoes dragged the carpet. She whispered again. Where is my groom? Her whisper grew louder with each word. Rising like someone turning up a dial, I scrambled, pushing myself backward against the headboard. Get out. Get out of my house. She didn't stop. She reached the edge of my mattress, grabbed the corner of it with both hands, and shook the bed violently. I yelled, "Stop! Stop!" She kept screaming the same words. "Where is my groom? Where is he? Where is he?" Her voice sounded shredded, like vocal cords ruined by years of screaming. I shot out of bed, adrenaline flooding my body, shoved her shoulder, and ran toward the hallway, I swear, when my hand pushed her. She felt cold. Not human cold, like dead air cold, like freezer cold. I sprinted across the hall and slammed myself into the bathroom, locking the door. My breathing was so loud I couldn't hear anything else for a second. Then, bang! She hit the door, hard. Bang, bang, bang. "Where's my groom?" she shrieked, her voice now twisting into something that barely sounded human. "He's late. He was supposed to come. He promised." "I'm calling the cops," I shouted, grabbing my phone with shaking hands. She cried, then soft, broken sobs. "I have to get to my wedding." She said it over and over, crying, whimpering, hammering the door with her palms. "I have to get to my wedding. I have to get to my wedding." Then suddenly, silence, nothing. I didn't open the door. I just stood there holding my breath. Then I heard her footsteps, heavy, stomping down the stairs, a scream, a slam, the front door bursting open, then, gone. I unlocked the bathroom slowly, my heart thudding in my ears. The hallway was empty. My bedroom was empty. The stairs were clear. I stepped into the living room and looked out the front window. No one. Just the quiet street. Dead end. Woods to the right. Darkness swallowing everything. My phone buzzed. The 911 operator's voice cut through the panic. "Sir, are you safe? Officers are on their way." I told them everything. They arrived 10 minutes later, lights flashing, neighbors peeking out their windows, robes tied loosely around them. The officer, Deputy Calhoun, listened carefully. "You said she was wearing a wedding dress?" he repeated. "Yeah, old-fashioned. And she kept asking where her groom was." "And you've never seen this woman before?" "Never." He rubbed the back of his neck and muttered, "Jesus, that's a new one." The police searched the woods and the entire street. Nothing. It was like she had vanished the second she stepped off my porch. Over the next week I barely slept. Every creak made me jump. Every shadow in my room looked like her. Then Lindsay's sister called me one afternoon. Her voice was shaky. "Hey, I know this is weird, but did something happen at your house recently? Something with a bride?" My blood ran cold. Why would you ask that?" She sighed deeply. "I didn't want to freak you out, but there used to be this urban legend about Gray Harbor. My grandma told it to us when we were kids. About a woman named Nora Caldwell." I felt the world tilt. "What happened to her?" "She was supposed to get married in 1972, but her fiancé never showed. Some say he ran away. Some say he died on the road. She waited for him in her wedding dress. For hours, then days, then she just snapped." "Snapped how?" "She walked into the woods behind Cranberry Point Road looking for him. People searched for weeks, but they never found her. Some locals say she still walks around in her dress, looking for her groom. The same woods beside my house, the same dead-end street, the same bride." My heart sank into my stomach. "Is that why she came into my house, because she thought that you were her groom?" Her voice cracked. "I'm so sorry. I didn't think the legend was real." A week later, I was packing a small bag to go stay with Lindsay for a few days. I needed a break from the house, from the nightmares, from the idea that she could return. As I closed the bag, I heard something outside. A soft sound. Like fabric brushing against wood. I looked out my bedroom window, and my heart nearly stopped. There, standing at the edge of the tree line, barely lit by the street lamp, was the bride. Her dress was torn now, dirt covering the bottom. Her veil fluttered in the slight breeze. She didn't move. She just stared at my window. Then she lifted her arm, slowly, holding something white, a bouquet. Old, dead, crumbling in her hand. And she whispered, even from the distance, "You're late." I backed away from the window so fast I tripped over my own shoes. When I crawled back up, shaking, she was gone again, like she had melted into the woods. That was it. I moved out of Gray Harbor. Within the month I didn't take a damn thing from that bedroom. Not my bed, not my dresser, not even my TV remote. I left the house furnished like a staged home in a catalog. I promised the landlord I'd send movers later. I never did, and I never went back for anything. Because somewhere in those woods, somewhere in that town, somewhere on nights when the air gets too quiet, a bride in a torn white dress still searches for a groom who never came, and I still hear her voice in my nightmares. "Where is my groom? You're late. I have to get to my wedding." Even now, years later, the words still scrape against my bones. I never imagined my wedding day would be the beginning of the most disturbing chapter of my life. I always pictured something simple. A quiet beach ceremony, close friends, some beer afterward, nothing too dramatic. But life doesn't care about your plans. It doesn't care about the picture you build in your head. It just waits for one crack, one loose thread, and when you pull it, everything unravels. My name is Connor Blake, and until all this happened, I thought marriage horror stories were just Reddit fuel. But I lived one. And it started with a beach, a man my wife insisted was just a friend, and a teddy bear. I wish I had burned the second I saw it. I met Allie Thompson 3 years before the wedding. She worked at a dental clinic. I worked IT for a construction company. She was outgoing, social, bright as hell. I was quieter, more observant, slower to trust. But she made everything easy. Our first date was at this dive bar in Clearwater Beach. I liked her immediately, but right away I learned something important about her. She kept old connections, old friends, old co-workers, even old relationships, including her ex-boyfriend, Logan Pierce. She told me about him early. "We dated for 2 years, she said. He wasn't bad, just not right for me long term." I asked if they still talked. "Sometimes," she admitted. "He checks in, but it's not like that." I believed her. That's on me. Because as the wedding got closer, I learned exactly how not like that it really was. We chose a small beach in Sarasota. White sand, calm water, nothing fancy. About 70 guests came, most from her side, including people I didn't know, barely recognized or honestly didn't care to meet. And then there was Logan. I saw him before she did, standing near the back row, wearing a perfectly fitted button-down and sunglasses even though the sun was dipping. He looked too formal for the beach, too composed, and too damn focused on my fiancée. "Hey," I muttered to Allie, nudging her as we walked toward the arch. "Is that Logan?" She squinted, then nodded, smiling like she wasn't surprised at all. "Yeah, he said he might show." "He didn't bring a date?" She shrugged. "Not everyone needs one, Con." She said it casually, but it hit me wrong. Something about him standing there alone, waiting. She must have seen my expression because she squeezed my hand. "Babe, relax. He's harmless." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But when the ceremony started, I saw him watching, no, staring at her like he was memorizing every detail. And every so often he'd cut his eyes toward me like I stole something that belonged to him. Still, I kept telling myself, don't ruin your wedding day over some insecurity. After the ceremony, during the reception, he hovered, talking to her every chance he got, touching her arm when he laughed, leaning a little too close. At one point he came up to me. "Congrats, man," he said, forcing a smile. "You're a lucky dude." "Thanks," I replied, not convinced he meant it. He took a sip of his drink. "She's 1 in a million. Hard to let someone like that go. I felt the hair rise on the back of my neck. Before I could say anything, he clapped me on the shoulder and walked away like he hadn't just said the creepiest thing possible. The next day we were exhausted. Wedding hangover, sunburn, everything. Friends stopped by to drop off gifts, take pictures, whatever. Then around 6 p.m. the doorbell rang. I opened it. Logan, holding a small gift bag and an envelope. "Oh," I said, trying not to sound annoyed. "Didn't expect you." "Just wanted to stop by," he said. "Didn't get a chance to give this to Allie yesterday." He said her name too softly, like he was savoring it. Allie came into the entryway and hugged him, and my jaw clenched so tight I thought my molars would crack. He gave her a small teddy bear holding a heart with our initials stitched on it. "Wow," she said. "This is really sweet." He looked at her like she was the only person in the room. I hated it. We gave him a quick house tour, and honestly, I just wanted him out. He finally left after one beer saying, "Take care of her, Connor." Like I needed him to tell me that night, Allie put the teddy bear on the dresser with the rest of the gifts. We were just starting to get intimate when I heard something. A low, faint buzzing sound. "Do you hear that?" I asked. "Hear what?" I slid away from her and listened hard. It sounded electronic. A vibration, not like a phone, more mechanical. "Nah, it's probably my phone getting notifications," I said, grabbing it from the nightstand. "Nothing." We shrugged it off, but something about the sound felt wrong. Too deliberate. Too long. Half an hour later, lying in the dark, I brought up Logan. "You texted him today?" I asked. She sighed. "He texted me first. Allie, I don't want you talking to him anymore." She turned toward me, irritated. "Connor, I married you. Can we not do this the first night we get home? I just think he still has feelings for you." She groaned. "He doesn't. We're just close friends. He's been there for me. You know that." "That's the problem," I muttered. She pulled the blanket up. "Look, I'll ease back, okay? But I'm not cutting him out like some villain. That's not fair." I didn't agree, but I let it go. For the moment. The next day I came home from work and Allie was pacing. "Baby, Logan blocked me." "What?" "Blocked me on Instagram. Blocked my number. Everything." "When?" "About an hour ago. I messaged him and he said, 'Why do you care?' Then he blocked me." My stomach dropped. She of course didn't know what he meant. I knew. He must have overheard us last night. "Allie, check your call history. Maybe you butt dialed him." She did nothing. No calls, no accidental taps, nothing at all. "Well," I said slowly, "at least he's out of our lives now." But something still gnawed at me, that sound from last night. That bear. That gift he gave her. That night, as we were getting ready for bed, the buzzing sound came again. Very faint, like a tiny motor. This time I knew it wasn't a phone. "Where's it coming from?" I whispered. We both froze, and then my eyes landed on the teddy bear. It was facing the bed. I walked over slowly. "Connor," Allie whispered. "I think it's the bear." I picked it up. The noise stopped. Immediately, like it sensed movement, my heart dropped. Without thinking, I sprinted to the kitchen, grabbed a steak knife, and started cutting into the bear's head. "What are you doing?" Allie gasped. Stuffing flew everywhere. And then, the fabric tore back to reveal a small black lens behind the left eye, a tiny circuit board, a slim silver battery wires, a mic near the ear, a Bluetooth transmitter. "Holy shit," I whispered. He was listening to us. Allie backed away, one hand over her mouth. Oh my God. Connor. He heard everything. The sound, the timing, the blocking. It all clicked. I couldn't breathe. He wasn't just jealous. He was obsessed. We didn't waste a second. We drove straight to the police station with the bear in a plastic bag. The officers were stunned, took photos, bagged it, documented everything. 2 days later, they arrested him. 6 months later, after court hearings, statements, evidence reviews, and a ton of legal fees we barely could cover, the judge ruled in our favor. Logan Pierce was ordered to pay $155,000 each for invasion of privacy, harassment, and illegal recording. Ally also secured a restraining order. When the judge read the verdict, Logan looked at us from the defendant's table with a smile. Not anger, not fear, just a cold, unsettling smile like he knew something we didn't, like it wasn't over. That night, Allie sat in bed trembling. "He watched us," she whispered. "Connor, he watched us in here." I held her, but even as I did, I couldn't shake the image. The idea of that man sitting somewhere holding his phone, listening to our voices in secret, watching us, waiting. It's been almost a year. We moved to a different house. We changed numbers, changed locks, upgraded cameras. But some nights when the house is quiet and Allie's asleep, I still hear it, a faint buzzing. Not from a phone, not from an appliance, something smaller. Sometimes it's in the closet, sometimes near the dresser. Once, I could have sworn it came from under the bed. Every time I search, there's nothing there. But I know that man. I know what he's capable of. And I know obsession doesn't just turn off. Not when someone like him loses everything. Not when someone like him thinks she was supposed to be his. Sometimes I wake up at night and swear I see a shadow move past the window. Sometimes I catch a whiff of cologne that isn't mine. And sometimes, when Allie turns in her sleep, I imagine what he might be doing right now. Watching, waiting, planning. Because if a man is crazy enough to hide a camera in a wedding gift, he's crazy enough for anything. And I pray to God we never find out what anything looks like. I never thought the most terrifying night of my life would happen on the day I was supposed to feel safest, happiest, and surrounded by the people who loved me. If anything, I used to believe wedding day horror stories were exaggerated. Things that happened to other people in videos or on Reddit threads you read at 2 a.m. for fun. But the truth is, real horror doesn't show up like a monster in a movie. Real horror walks in quietly, smiling, shaking your hand like nothing is wrong. And in my case, real horror walked into my wedding with a woman I barely knew. But before I get to that part, I need to take you back just a bit. Because without the backstory, the rest of this will feel like fiction. And I promise you, nothing about this was made up. I grew up in Ventura County, the kind of place where everyone pretends to be chill but really has opinions about everyone else's business. My name's Reed Walker, and I was 29 when this happened. My soon-to-be wife, Lena Rivera, was 27. She was born and raised in Oxnard, the youngest of 3 sisters. Her middle sister, Marisol, was the only one Lena had ever been close to. The oldest one, Jenna, was the family's black sheep. She wasn't evil, not in a villain way, but she had burned so many bridges that people stopped rebuilding them. Jenna struggled with meth at one point, alcohol, bad relationships, the usual cycle Southern California families whisper about at backyard barbecues. Still, Lena's mom insisted Jenna should be invited. "You invite family, even when they're a mess," she told us. "That's how it works." So, we invited her. That single decision changed everything. We held the ceremony at a historic Spanish-style church in San Gabriel, near Pasadena. The reception was right next door at the Arroyo Room. Arched windows, warm lights, and enough space for 120 people. A damn perfect setup on paper. The morning started beautifully. California sun, light breeze, zero drama. I wish I'd known that weather is the only thing you can ever trust on a wedding day. Just as the photographer was lining us up for pre-ceremony pictures, Marisol walked briskly toward me whispering, "Hey, Reed, don't freak out. But Jenna brought someone." I frowned. "Okay, like a date?" "Yeah, but, dude, something's wrong with him." What do you mean wrong? You'll see. When I finally spotted him behind the church courtyard, my stomach dropped. The guy stood with Jenna by the fountain. He was tall, thin, long hair tied back in a greasy ponytail. His dress shirt didn't fit, and he had this twitch in his jaw like he was grinding invisible sand between his teeth. But his eyes, those were the worst part. He didn't blink, didn't smile, didn't even look curious. He looked like someone who hated being alive. I walked over with my best man, Luis, who muttered under his breath, "Bruh, who invited Jason from a budget horror movie?" I forced a smile and extended my hand. "Hey man, I'm Reed." Slow grin, cold handshake, voice like gravel. "Name's Troy." Jenna giggled beside him, way too loud. "He's, helping me stay sober." I nodded politely, even though the guy looked anything but sober. During the bridal party photos, the vibe kept getting interrupted. My groomsmen cracked jokes. The bridesmaids laughed. The photographer tried to keep everyone relaxed. But behind us, always behind us, Troy kept making weird, off-timed comments. "Smile while you can, people," he shouted once. Everyone went silent. Another time he said, "Man, if my ex could see me now, she'd lose her damn mind." And then he laughed alone, this dry, humorless cackle that made Lena tighten her jaw. At one point, the photographer leaned toward me and whispered, "Do you want me to ask them to step back?" But I shook my head. I didn't want to start wedding drama, biggest mistake of my life. By the time we walked into the Arroyo room as newlyweds, the dinner buffet was ready, drinks were flowing, and people were cheering like we were celebrities. Every table was glowing in fairy lights. Every guest looked happy. Except Troy. He moved around the room like a shadow, hovering, pacing, observing people like he was choosing something or someone. I couldn't tell if he was drunk or high, or just naturally unsettling. When he came to congratulate me, he leaned way too close. "Beautiful wedding, man," he said. "Thanks," I replied, trying to stay polite. He smirked. "Shame how fast things can go wrong, huh?" I paused. "What's that supposed to mean?" He shrugged and walked away before I could ask. Lena watched him the whole time, her brows tense. "You okay?" she asked me. "Yeah, just keeping an eye on him." "Good," she whispered, "because I swear something's off." Around 9:30 p.m., I noticed Jenna sitting alone at a table, no Troy. I walked over. "Hey, where'd your guy go?" She shrugged. "Bathroom? Outside? I don't know. He disappears sometimes." "Disappears?" "Yeah, he does that. Not comforting." 10 minutes later, Marisol came up to us looking stressed. "Reed, Lena, where are the gift envelopes?" "What do you mean?" Lena asked. "They're not in the box." We checked. 2 were missing. Not money-filled presents. Not blenders. Not kitchen sets, cash envelopes, classic wedding theft. My pulse spiked. "Do you think—" "Yeah," she cut me off. "I think it was that guy." But the real nightmare hadn't even started yet. After the reception, a few close friends came to our hotel in Glendale. We were exhausted but happy. Around 1:30 a.m., Lena's phone rang. Caller ID, Jenna. She answered, "Hey, you okay?" Silence, then breathing slow, wet, deliberate, like someone enjoying the sound. "Hello?" Lena repeated, louder this time. "Jenna, are you hurt?" More breathing. A faint click, then a whisper. "You shouldn't have judged me today." Not Jenna's voice. Not even close. It was Troy. And then the line went dead. Our friends froze, staring at Lena like she'd just been told her house was on fire. "What the hell was that?" I asked. Lena shook her head, hands trembling. "That wasn't Jenna, that was him." Luis spoke up. "Dude, you gave him your address on the RSVP, right? All the guests got the info mailed." My chest tightened. "Yes." "Oh, hell no," he muttered. We weren't sober enough to drive back home, so I called my dad. "Dad, can you please go check the house, just stay there tonight?" He didn't hesitate. "On my way." By morning, I woke to 12 missed calls from him. When he finally answered, his voice was shaky. Reed, someone kept knocking on your windows all night. What? I called the cops. Whoever it was ran off before they got there. My blood ran cold. We went to file a complaint. The officer asked, "Do you have evidence he took the gifts?" "No," I said. "And the phone call, did he threaten you?" "No, but—" "And you didn't see his face at your home?" "No." The officer sighed. "Without proof, we can't do much, but avoid him, and change your locks." Avoid him? Dude showed up uninvited to my house. When we confronted Jenna later, she looked embarrassed. I told him you didn't like him. I told him everyone was judging us. I clenched my jaw. Why did you tell him that on our wedding day? I don't know. I was drunk, okay? He got mad at me. He said you were poisoning the vibe. Did he steal the phones, the gifts? He didn't admit it, but he left with my phone and he uses people, so probably. Where is he now? I don't know. Right. Classic Jenna answer. For months, Lena jumped whenever someone knocked on our door. I installed cameras. We changed the locks. We stopped talking to Jenna completely. And Troy was never found. Some people vanish because the world swallows them. Others vanish because they're waiting. We don't know which one he is. But sometimes, late at night, our doorbell rings once, followed by silence. And every time it happens, I swear I hear that same breathing from the phone. Wet, deliberate, patient. Like he's reminding us, you shouldn't have judged me. I always believed that the hardest part of getting married wasn't the wedding day, it was everything leading up to it. But looking back now, I don't think it was the planning, or the cost, or the stress, or the family drama. It was the feeling. That tiny, crawling feeling in my gut that whispered, something's off. And I ignored it. Not because I didn't trust my instincts, but because I wanted so badly for my new life with Brielle to be peaceful, normal, and free from the shadows of my past. And maybe if I wasn't so caught up in protecting that dream, I would have noticed the warning signs before everything spiraled the way it did. I met Brielle in a painfully ordinary way. Coffee shop. Rainy morning. Me running late to work. I spilled an entire iced latte on her tote bag, and instead of snapping at me, she laughed and said, "Dude, it's fine. I hate this bag anyway." She sounded relieved, not annoyed. That's what caught my attention. We clicked instantly. Same sense of humor, same music taste, same weird love for those trashy late-night diner pancakes. She was soft-spoken but bold when she needed to be. I was anxious but tried my best to seem put together. Together, things felt easy. For once in my life, love wasn't a battlefield, which was a massive contrast to my last relationship with Arya. Arya and I burned hot and fast, and we burned out even faster. She was unpredictable, impulsive, passionate to the point of being obsessive. When I finally ended things, she didn't just take it badly, she unraveled. Late-night calls, showing up outside my job, messages like, "You don't get to leave me. We're not done." My friends called it harassment. I called it terrifying. Eventually, with help from my buddy Holden, I blocked everything, changed my number, and cut her out for good. Or, I thought I did. After Brielle and I got engaged, life genuinely felt perfect. Too perfect. Brielle was the organized one. She had color-coded spreadsheets, mood boards, and a Pinterest addiction that could have qualified for medical evaluation. Me? I was the classic overwhelmed groom trying to pretend I understood the difference between lilac and lavender. But we made it work. We booked a venue in Ridge Harbor, a quiet coastal town in Maine where Brielle grew up. A beautiful lodge with wooden beams, stone fireplaces, and wide windows overlooking the woods. The venue offered bundled services, catering, DJ, photography, floral, decor, everything. And because of that, the entire planning process was eerily smooth. No vendors backed out. No weird issues. No disasters. Feels too easy, I joked one night while sorting RSVP cards. Brielle smirked, tossing a pen at me. What? You want drama? Go plan your own wedding. I laughed it off, but that little voice in my chest whispered again. Something's off. Life doesn't go this smoothly for you. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe I was traumatized from my past. Maybe I should have listened. Holden suggested a quick 2-night bachelor trip somewhere close. Nothing wild. Nothing crazy. Just the guys hanging out. We picked a beach town in Massachusetts called Winterport Shore. Off-season. Quiet. Peaceful. Kinda gloomy, but in a charming way. The Airbnb had a back deck facing the water, a grill, a fire pit, and a huge open living room with carpet that smelled like every guy's college apartment, no matter how recently it had been cleaned. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. We stocked up on beers, burgers, chips, and enough charcoal to burn down half the coast by accident. The first night we decided to hit a bar called the Driftline, half dive, half club. Loud music, sticky floors, neon signs. Perfect for a bunch of idiots pretending they were 21 again. I'm not the biggest drinker, but man, that night something came over me. Maybe nostalgia. Maybe nerves. Maybe the false confidence that comes with cheap liquor. Whatever it was, I started drinking more than usual. By midnight, we were laughing over nothing, dancing like morons, screaming lyrics to songs we didn't know the words to. Then, around 1 a.m., I went to grab a water at the bar, and that's when I froze. Across the room near a column wrapped in blue LED lights, I saw someone who looked terrifyingly like Arya. Same dark hair. Same posture. Same way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she leaned in to talk to someone. She turned her face slightly. My stomach dropped. It wasn't a perfect angle, but my brain recognized her too fast for comfort. I nudged Jackson, who was next to me. Yo, dude, does that look like Arya? He squinted. Nah, man, I don't think so. Relax, you're buzzed. Yeah, maybe, I muttered, but my heart wouldn't slow down. I looked again. She was gone. I told myself I imagined it. The alcohol, the lighting, my nerves. I let it go. I shouldn't have. The next morning, we dragged ourselves out for a long walk around the beach to clear our heads. By the time we returned to the house, something was sitting on the front steps. A 6-pack of beer, and a small folded note taped to it. Yo, what's this? Jackson mumbled. Probably a neighbor left it after seeing the bachelor balloons, Rowan joked. I didn't laugh. Jackson opened the note. The handwriting was elegant, slanted, way too familiar. It read, Hope you're enjoying your big weekend. You deserve the best. F so. And under it, a lipstick kiss. My heart slammed into my ribs. I swallowed hard. Is this a joke? One of you messing with me? Rowan frowned. No, dude, not from us. Holden stepped beside me. You good? I let out a shaky laugh. Yeah, I probably shouldn't jump to conclusions. Could be anything. But he gave me a look that said he didn't buy it. I didn't buy it either. The night before. The girl I thought I saw. No. Impossible. She didn't know where I lived. She didn't know about the trip. Right? Despite the bachelor trip scare, nothing else happened. The wedding planning continued smoothly. Almost too smoothly. My mom cried when she saw me in my tux. Brielle's dad clapped me on the back like he approved of every life decision I'd ever made. The venue was warm, candlelit, filled with soft music and the smell of cedar. When Brielle walked down the aisle, I swear the world disappeared. Her dress flowed like water. Her eyes never left mine. Her smile made my chest feel too small. I whispered, Holy hell, you're beautiful. She whispered back, You're not too bad yourself. Everything felt perfect. We danced. We drank. We did photos under string lights. People gave toasts that made me cry and laugh at the same time. In every direction, there was love. But once, just once, I swore I saw someone standing near the tree line beyond the venue lights. A silhouette. Still. Watching. When I blinked, it was gone. I told myself. Paranoid. Relax. Enjoy your night. And I did. For 3 months, life was wonderful. Until Holden invited me out one night and dropped the truth like a bomb. We met at a bar near his place, small, dimly lit, mostly silent except for the occasional clink of glasses. He was getting married soon and needed advice. We talked suits, venues, DJs, dumb stuff like whether sparklers were a fire hazard. Then he went quiet. "Hey, man," he said softly. "There's something I gotta tell you." I leaned back. "Okay, shoot." He looked nervous. Holden never looks nervous. "Promise you won't freak out." "Dude, just tell me." He out a long breath, rubbing the back of his neck. "You remember your bachelor weekend? That note we found?" Every muscle in my body tensed. "Yeah. It wasn't from any of us." "I know that. Did you find out who?" He cut me off. "It was Arya." My heart stopped. "What?" He looked me dead in the eye. "She was there, man. At the house. Like outside. When you guys left for the beach the second morning, I stayed back. And when I stepped outside, I saw her standing by the side window, like she was trying to open it. The bar went silent in my ears. Everything tunneled. No, that's impossible." "She turned when she heard me," he said quietly. "Ran straight at me, yelling your name, asking where you were, saying she needed you, saying you still belonged to her." My throat tightened. "She looked bad, dude," he continued. "Hair a mess, eyes wild, like she hadn't slept in days." I felt sick. "What did she say?" I whispered. He hesitated. "A lot. Most of it didn't make sense. But she said, no one else deserves him. No one." And she kept repeating, "I know where he's going. I know where he'll be." A cold wave washed over me. I gripped the edge of the table. "Why? Why didn't you tell me then?" He looked down. "Guilty. Because you were already anxious as hell, and I wasn't about to ruin your wedding. I told her if she didn't leave, I'd call the cops. I made damn sure she knew never to go near you again." My voice cracked. "Hole. You should have told me." "I know," he whispered. "I'm sorry, man." I sat there shaking. The letter, the silhouette at the wedding, the feeling in my gut. It wasn't paranoia. It wasn't anxiety. It wasn't trauma. It was a warning. A warning I ignored. For weeks after Holden told me the truth, I was a wreck. Not for me. For Brielle. I couldn't bring myself to tell her. How do you explain something like that? How do you say, "Hey babe, my obsessive ex tried to break into the house during my bachelor weekend and left a gift on the doorstep"? You don't. Not unless you want to ruin the peace you've built. So I kept quiet. But something happened I didn't tell Holden. Or anyone. A month after that conversation, Brielle and I moved to Ashwood, a small town in Michigan, for my job. The first week there was calm, peaceful, a fresh start. Then one night, while taking the trash out, I saw something across the street. A woman, standing under a street light. Not moving, not talking, just watching our house. I couldn't see her face, just her outline, her hair blowing slightly in the wind. I blinked, and she was gone. Brielle called out from the doorway. "You coming back inside? It's freezing." I stared at the empty street. "Yeah," I said softly. Just spaced out. But deep down, I knew. I knew exactly what I saw. Or who. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay next to Brielle, staring at the ceiling, listening for sounds outside. Footsteps. Breathing. Anything. That was 3 months ago. Since then, nothing else happened. No sightings. No letters. No shadows. Sometimes I convince myself I imagined that woman under the streetlight. Sometimes. But every night before bed, I still check the locks. All of them. Twice. Because somewhere out there, Arya is still looking for me. And people like her, they don't move on. They don't forget. They wait. And one day, when she finds an opening, she'll come back. I feel it in my bones. I've always believed that every relationship has a moment that quietly decides the fate of the two people in it. Some people realize it early, some don't see it until years later. For me, the moment didn't happen during the proposal, or our first year of dating, or when we moved in together. It happened the night before my wedding, when a stranger with a smile that didn't touch his eyes stepped into my life and decided he knew better than I did about the kind of marriage I was supposed to have. My name is Lena Ward, and 3 years ago, I nearly didn't make it to my own wedding because someone thought they were chosen by God to save my marriage before it happened. But I should start from the beginning. I met Jared in the most unromantic way possible, waiting in line at an all-night Walgreens in a worn-down part of downtown Louisville. I was there because I had food poisoning from some questionable sushi, and he was there because he'd gotten off a double shift at the hospital and needed something to help him stay awake long enough to get home. He looked like hell. I definitely looked like hell. But we clicked instantly. We were the same type of unusual people. The type who liked abandoned buildings more than fancy hotels, late-night diners more than brunch spots, weird hobbies more than normal ones. Jared collected vintage medical textbooks. I collected haunted house postcards. We were both strange as hell in ways that somehow made sense together. After 2 years, he proposed to me in the parking lot of that same Walgreens. He didn't plan it. He didn't get down on one knee. He just looked at me, exhausted and real, and said, "Lena, I don't want to do life with anybody else. So, you want to marry me or what?" I laughed so hard I almost choked on my iced tea. Of course I said yes. Our families were small. Our budget was even smaller. We wanted something easy, simple, intimate. A backyard ceremony. Friends. Not distant cousins. Real laughter. Not forced formalities. And most importantly, we wanted my best friend, Miles, to be the one who married us. Jared's mom? Yeah, she hated that idea. She didn't say it. She didn't have to. The look she gave Miles at dinner the first time she met him said everything. The week before the wedding, Jared's parents invited us over for a family dinner, which, in their language, meant an intervention disguised with meatloaf. I didn't want to go. Jared didn't want to go. But family guilt is an Olympic sport in Kentucky, and his mom is a gold medalist. The second we walked in, I already knew something was off. His mom, Donna, is normally a quiet, polite woman. Southern manners, soft voice, never sweats, never curses. But that night, she was buzzing. Like she drank 6 coffees and God whispered a secret in her ear. We ate a painfully awkward meal over cooked casserole, over salted green beans, small talk that could have killed a plant. Then, right as Jared's dad went to get coffee, the doorbell rang. Donna practically sprinted to it. Jared looked at me. He didn't have to speak. I already knew. "Who'd she invite?" I whispered. He muttered back, "Just play it cool. Please, Lena." When Donna returned, she wasn't alone. Behind her stood a tall man, tall like NFL tall, with a thick, rust-red beard and a shaved head. His eyes were too blue. The kind of blue that looks cold no matter how much they smile. "Everyone, this is Reverend Callum Price," Donna said like she'd just introduced a celebrity. My stomach dropped instantly. I knew exactly what this was. Jared inhaled sharply. "Mom." But Reverend Callum stepped forward with a booming voice. "Well, now look at you," he shouted at Jared. "Last time I saw you, son, you barely reached my shoulder. Now you're practically a tree." He laughed at his own joke like he'd never heard anything funnier. Jared didn't laugh. I sure as hell didn't. Donna continued. "I thought maybe he could go over the ceremony with you both. You know, since he'll be officiating." I blinked at her so intensely I probably looked possessed. I said, "You mean Miles will be officiating?" The Reverend looked confused. "Your friend? The one without any proper faith training?" I stared straight at him. "Yes, that one." He paused, smiled a little, but the smile was wrong, like a mask sliding into place. "Well," he said calmly, "marriage is sacred. God's house is where it belongs." Jared stepped between us. "We've talked about this. We're not changing the plan. We're not doing a church wedding." Donna's face twitched. "I'm just trying to help. Family is supposed to guide you." "Guide," I repeated. "Not control." There were 20 minutes of polite arguing after that. Fake smiles, tight jaws. Reverend Callum asking gentle questions that felt more like interrogations. At one point he asked me, "And what does non-traditional mean to you, young lady?" I said, It means I'm wearing a black wedding dress I got for $40 online. It means I'm not doing church vows. It means we're not paying thousands for a hall we don't want. It means we're getting married the way we want. The room went silent. He didn't like that answer. He didn't hide it well. Eventually we left. I thought the worst was over. Yeah. No. Not even close. Jared fell asleep before I did. I stayed awake scrolling on my phone, calming myself down, telling myself his mom was just being herself. Around 2 a.m., I finally drifted off. And at 3:07 a.m. exactly, I woke up to the sound of something slamming downstairs. Not a creak, not a thud, a full-on bang. Jared jolted awake too. What the hell was that? We moved together, half asleep, half terrified, down the hallway. The side door was open. Not cracked. Not unlocked. Wide. Open. A gust of cold air blew in through the kitchen. "Did you lock it?" I whispered. "Of course I locked it," he whispered back. We checked the backyard. Nothing. Checked the living room. Nothing. Checked closets. Nothing. We started to convince ourselves maybe we hadn't shut the door fully. Maybe the wind did it. Maybe we were paranoid from the dinner. We were about to head back to bed when Jared suddenly froze in the kitchen. He lifted one finger to his lips. I stopped breathing. I heard it too. Footsteps. Heavy ones. Coming from the basement. Slow at first. Then faster. Then running. "Lena, go," Jared whispered harshly. But I didn't move. I couldn't. The basement door flew open so hard it smacked the wall. And a figure sprinted up the stairs, big, broad-shouldered, wearing a baseball cap pulled low. He made a beeline for the side door, fumbling with the lock. Jared reacted on instinct. He grabbed the nearest thing, a damn golf club, and swung at the intruder's shoulder. The man staggered, grunted, and the cap flew off. For one split second, one stupid, brief, perfect second, I saw his head. Short hair. Bright red. Not orange. Not brown. Red. He bolted into the night. I ran to the window. Watched him sprint to the street. Street light hit him just right. His beard glowed the same color. I whispered, "That's him. Jared, that's him." That was Reverend Price. Jared shook his head violently. No. No, he wouldn't, Lena. No way. But he was pale. Rattled. Because he saw it too. Even if he didn't want to believe it. The cops came. Checked the house. Filed a report. Said it was probably a random burglary attempt. They questioned Reverend Callum briefly. He had an alibi. Conveniently solid. Conveniently unverifiable for us. The cops didn't care enough to push harder. We stayed at my parents' place for 4 nights. We slept with lights on. Jared kept the golf club next to the bed. We had nightmares about footsteps. But the wedding day came, and nothing happened. Miles married us in my parents' backyard. Everyone laughed. Everyone cried. Even Donna tried to act supportive. We never saw Reverend Callum again. Life went on. For 3 years. I tried to forget. Jared tried to forget. But last week, completely out of nowhere, we were driving home from the movies when he said, "Lena, you remember that night? Before the wedding?" Of course," I said. He swallowed hard. His hands tightened on the wheel. He didn't look at me. I think, maybe I did see red hair. I just didn't want to admit it. I stared at him. "Why now?" He shook his head. "I don't know. It just hit me. I think it was him. I think he was trying to scare us, or stop us, or God. I don't know." I told him I never stopped believing it. He whispered, "Yeah, me neither. And that's why I'm finally sharing this story. Because sometimes the people who claim they're closest to God are the ones you should fear the most." I always thought I was the kind of woman who could sniff out danger from a mile away. Turns out, I wasn't even close. My name is Riley Hartman, and before all of this happened, my life was painfully normal, painfully predictable, painfully safe. I was the middle child in a New Jersey suburb. My older sister Lena always did everything right. Everything by the book. And I guess that made me the family's permanent disappointment. Lena became a PA at a hospital in Philly. My younger brother Jonah joined the Coast Guard. And me? I bounced between community college classes and part-time jobs, until I finally settled on working nights at a tiny event bar outside Trenton called the Lantern's Edge. The kind of bar where the pool table is slanted, the jukebox only plays classic rock, and 90% of the customers come to drown their problems, instead of talking about them. My family hated that job. Hated it. And they told me so every damn Sunday during family dinners. That night started like every other argument-filled Sunday. "Riley, honey, I'm just saying," my mom said, sipping her wine like she wasn't about to rip my heart in half. "You're almost 30. When are you gonna settle down? Find someone, get married, start a real career?" "Mom, I literally started a savings plan last month." "Sweetheart, bartending is not a career," she cut me off. "It's a phase," Dad chimed in, stabbing his steak. "Your sister's talking engagement soon. You ever think about meeting a good man?" Lena smirked like she loved this, and something inside me snapped. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was frustration. Maybe it was the constant comparison. But something broke. "I'm trying," I said, my voice cracking a little. "Why does it never feel good enough for you guys?" Mom sighed dramatically. "We just worry about you. You're so impulsive." Funny how parents say impulsive when they really mean you disappoint us. I left early. Didn't even take dessert. When I got to work, my best coworker Jess took one look at my face and said, "Damn rough Sunday dinner again?" "That obvious?" I asked. "Girl, you look like someone told you your dog joined a cult." I laughed, but it died quickly. "It's just the same crap. Why aren't you like Lena? Why aren't you married? Why aren't you saving for a house? Why don't you want a baby yet? Why aren't you perfect?" Jess finished. "Exactly." Before she could reply, someone at the bar spoke up. A man's voice. Deep, steady, like gravel and whiskey. "You ask me," he said. "Sounds like your family doesn't see how rare you are." I turned. And that's when I first saw Callum Price. Tall, maybe 6'3". Shoulders like he worked construction. Tan skin, black hair that curled slightly around his ears, clean-shaven jaw but sharp cheekbones. A gray denim jacket. Brown boots like he'd driven across the desert in them. Handsome as hell, but not the soft kind of handsome. The kind that could either ruin your week or ruin your whole damn life. He held a glass of bourbon and looked at me with warm brown eyes. "You've got this free spirit energy," he said. "The kind people envy. Others don't get it and they hate what they can't be." Jess glanced at me behind the register like, "Okay, damn, he's smooth." And he was. Too smooth. But I was tired. Emotionally raw. And maybe just a little drunk on the idea that someone actually saw me. We talked. For hours. About music, travel, stupid childhood memories. The kind of deep shit you only share with someone who feels like a stranger but also strangely familiar. When we closed the bar, he offered to walk me to my car. "You don't even know me," I said, smiling nervously. "That's the best part," he said. We ended up at my apartment. A few more drinks. A lot more talking. One thing led to another. And in the morning, he made me breakfast. Like an actual hot breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, even cut up fruit. I remember thinking, who the hell does that after a one-night stand? Apparently, Callum did. We sat at my tiny table. Sunlight leaked through the blinds. It almost felt domestic, dangerously domestic. Callum leaned back in his chair, watching me eat. "You ever just want to get away from everything?" he asked. "Every day of my life." I laughed. "What if," he said slowly, "you and I took a drive? A long one. Didn't even tell anyone. Just disappeared for a couple days." I raised an eyebrow. "To where?" "Vegas." My fork froze halfway to my mouth. "Vegas?" "Yeah," he said, smiling that quiet, devastating smile. "Let's elope." I actually choked on my eggs. Callum reached over and tapped my hand. "I'm serious," he said, voice low. "I know it sounds wild. But you felt it too, didn't you? That connection last night? I bit my lip. My brain screamed, "This is insane." But my heart whispered, "This is the biggest screw you to your family ever." And God, did that feel tempting? "So what do you say, Riley?" he asked. "That voice in your head telling you not to do it, that's not fear. That's your parents talking. Ignore them. Listen to yourself." I should have said no. Any sane person would have. But I wasn't sane. I was angry. I was insecure. I was reckless and desperate to prove I wasn't the disappointment my parents thought I was. "Okay," I whispered. Callum's smile widened. "Atta girl." We left within an hour. He drove a dark silver sedan I didn't recognize. We talked nonstop at first. About life. About plans. About how we'd tell my parents. But somewhere past Pennsylvania, I realized something strange. I didn't actually know anything about him. Not his job. Not his family. Not where he lived. Not his last name. He'd only ever said, "Callum." So I asked, "What's your last name, by the way?" He smirked. "You'll know soon enough." My stomach tightened. Not fear yet. Just unease. But unease grows fast when you ignore it. The farther we drove, the quieter he became. His smile stayed, but his eyes didn't match anymore. At a gas station near Kansas, I asked where we'd be staying for the night. "Don't worry about it," he said. "I've got plans." "What plans?" "You'll see." That wasn't cute. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't spontaneous. It was secretive. He grabbed my hand like he could physically stop my suspicion from growing. "You trust me, right?" I swallowed. Nodded. But something deep inside me whispered, "You idiot. You don't even know what this man wants from you." When we were finally close to Nevada, I saw a highway sign pointing straight toward Vegas. But Callum took an exit. A random one. Callum?" I asked. "Vegas is that way." "This is faster," he said. "Shortcut. My friend runs a private little chapel, way more intimate. You'll love it." "What's it called?" "You'll see." The desert outside looked abandoned. No buildings. No cars. Just miles of nothing. "Callum, where exactly are we going?" He tapped the steering wheel. "Relax, baby. God, you overthink everything." But his tone, sharp, irritated, sent a cold rush down my spine. My instincts were screaming now. "I need to pee," I said. "No, hold it. We're almost there." "No," I said more firmly. "I need to pee. Pull over." He exhaled through his nose, annoyed, but finally stopped at a rundown gas station. Inside, I locked the bathroom door and opened my phone. My hands shook as I typed, "Mom, I messed up. I'm scared." I waited. Seconds felt like hours. Finally, she texted back, "Turn on your location. Stay where you are. We're coming. If anything goes wrong, text me. X. Just one letter." I turned my GPS on and squeezed the phone so hard my fingers hurt. I took a deep breath and went back to the car. Callum was leaning against it, eyes narrowed. "You were gone a while." "Long line," I said quietly. He stared at me for 3 tense seconds, then forced a smile. "Come on. We're almost there." 45 silent minutes later, we pulled up to an old mechanic shop in the middle of the desert. Broken sign. Dust everywhere. Not a single other building in sight. My heartbeat thundered. "What is this?" "Private chapel," he said. "Super low-key." I looked at him like he was insane, but he kept smiling like everything was normal. "Go inside," Callum said. "I've got a suit in the trunk." "A suit? In a small duffel bag?" My chest tightened. I walked slowly toward the building. There was a small window next to the steel door. Thank God I looked through it first. Someone, a man, wearing a hood, was crouched behind the door, waiting for me. My body went cold. I stepped back, quiet, careful, texted Mom, and ran behind the garage, hiding behind stacked oil barrels. Breathing so hard I could hear blood in my ears. I heard Callum shouting my name, then another man's voice, urgent. "Where the hell is she?" "We need to go now." Car doors slammed. The engine roared. Gravel flew. They were gone. Just like that. Whatever they planned Whatever they wanted. Whatever was supposed to happen in that garage. I escaped it by seconds. Seconds. I stayed hidden until I heard sirens. 2 patrol cars. Then my parents' SUV. Mom ran to me sobbing. Dad looked like he was going to murder someone. The officers took my statement. Description. Car type. Route. But Callum Price, if that was even his name, was never found. Not him. Not the hooded man. Not the car. Nothing. I quit the bar. Never worked another night shift. For months, every time a silver sedan slowed near me, my heart stopped. I went to therapy. Learned about trauma bonding. Learned how predators use validation and timing to manipulate vulnerable people. Learned I wasn't stupid. Just vulnerable and hurt. But the worst part? Sometimes, late at night, I hear his voice. You trust me, right? I never thought the hardest part of getting married would be the people who claimed to love us. I always assumed the stress would come from planning, money, vendors messing up, or maybe nerves. But the truth is those things never scared me. What scared me was the feeling I carried for months that someone from our own family was waiting for our wedding day to fall apart. For context, my name is Joel Whitman, born and raised in northern Colorado, the kind of place where people wave even if they don't know you. And fireworks go off 3 weeks before the 4th of July because folks don't really care about rules. I work as an HVAC tech. I fix busted AC units in the summer and dead furnaces in the winter. Not glamorous, but honest. And then there's Elena, my wife now. Back then, she was my girlfriend of 2 years, and soon my fiancé for 4 more. We were that couple everyone assumed would get married someday, but someday kept getting pushed until she finished nursing school, and I finally landed a stable job with benefits. We wanted to build something solid before we built a life together. But before all that calm and rational planning, came her cousin. His name was Reed Callahan. And if chaos had a heartbeat, it would be his. The first time I met him, he strutted into Elena's parents' house wearing a camo jacket, sunglasses inside, and mud on his boots even though it hadn't rained in weeks. Yo, Whitman, he said, even though we had never met. Heard you're the dude making my cousin all googly-eyed. Elena had rolled her eyes at him. Reed, stop, don't be weird. Baby cuz, don't act like you're not into this. He shot back, making kissing noises until she slapped his arm. He was loud, unpredictable, always carrying the energy of someone who had either just escaped trouble or was about to walk straight into it. For the first few months of dating Elena, I tolerated him hell. I even laughed at his antics. The guy had charisma buried under all that recklessness. But over the years he changed. And changed, bad. Elena never sugarcoated the truth. Reed had always struggled anger issues, drugs, theft, a sense that the universe owed him something. But something shifted after he fell in with a group of self-appointed justice warriors, as he called them. Society's rigged, bro, he once said at a barbecue. Rich people walk on your neck and smile about it. It wasn't just talk. He got arrested twice, once for breaking into what he called a corrupt dealership, and another time for supposedly redistributing wealth from a private storage unit. Reed believed he was doing the world a favor, but what he was really doing was spiraling. By the year Elena and I got engaged, he barely showed his face at family gatherings anymore. When he did, he'd pick fights with everyone, even his own mother. So when we planned our engagement dinner, Elena warned me. He better behave. I swear to God, Joel, if he ruins this night, I'm done with him. At the time, I didn't think she meant that literally. We rented the private room of a small tavern in Boulder brick walls. Dim lighting, the smell of grilled steak floating through the air. The atmosphere was perfect. My best man, Cal Donovan, showed up late because he had just gotten off duty. He was a patrol officer, one of those genuine, patient guys who didn't talk down to anyone. When Reed arrived, he made an entrance. As usual, loud, swaggering, already smelling faintly of beer. Holy hell, he said, looking around. Look at Whitman throwing a whole damn banquet. Didn't know HVAC techs made money like that. Behave, Elena muttered through clenched teeth. Everything was surprisingly calm at first until Cal mentioned what he did for a living. Reed's smile dropped. His voice got colder. You a cop? Reed asked, pushing his chair back. Cal nodded politely. Yeah, but I'm the boring kind, mostly traffic calls and late-night DUIs. Ah, so you're one of the good guys, Reed sneered. That's what you tell yourself? That you're serving the public and protecting the peace? Reed, stop. Elena snapped. But he was gone, his anger boiling past the point of no return. You're all the same? Reed barked, standing up. Power-hungry bullies hiding behind badges. People turned. The room went silent. Sit down, Elena's uncle said sharply. Or what? Reed growled. Cal stayed calm. Man, I'm not here to bother you. Just let's chill out. Okay. Reed slapped a glass off the table, shattering it. That ended the night. He was dragged out by two of Elena's cousins while yelling, all cops are the enemy. I'll never be in the same room with one. We tried to salvage the celebration, but the air had changed. Something sour settled inside my stomach, a warning I didn't yet understand. My bachelor party wasn't wild. Honestly, it was almost boring. Just a rented cabin near a lake, some beer, some old-school video games, and dumb stories from high school. That was all I wanted. Just me, Cal, and 4 close friends. The cabin sat at the edge of a pine forest, with a wraparound deck and a motion-activated light facing the woods. Around midnight, the light flickered on. Probably a raccoon, my buddy Alan said. But when I walked to the sliding door, I froze. Outside were bare, wet footprints on the deck. But the deck was dry. What the hell? I whispered. Yo, Whitman, if you're messing with us, Alan started. I'm not, I said, my stomach tightening. Cal looked carefully, crouching near the glass. These prints. They're big. Adult male big. He followed the prints to where they disappeared into the grass. We slept in shifts that night. Around 4:45 a.m., I stayed awake, watching the sliding door. And that's when a face appeared, pressed right against the glass. I screamed. The face jerked away and ran not toward the woods, but around the cabin. We packed our bags and left within 20 minutes. We reported it, but there was nothing to go on. Back home, we joked about it, trying to shake off the unease. But something had changed inside me. It felt like someone was watching us. Elena was stressed. I was exhausted. Every tiny thing felt like a fight waiting to happen, and the air felt electrically wrong. Reed didn't show up to any pre-wedding events, not the rehearsal, not the family meeting, nothing. Maybe that's a good thing, Elena said, half relieved. But I couldn't help noticing that some nights, when I drove home late from work, a car followed for a few blocks, then disappeared. Maybe it was paranoia. Maybe I was connecting dots that didn't exist. But I've never been a paranoid guy, and something about it felt too familiar. After the rehearsal dinner, Cal drove me home because I'd had a couple of beers. The night air was freezing, and the roads were nearly empty. But halfway home, Cal muttered, "Great." Tailgater. A black sedan sped up behind us, practically kissing the bumper, high beams blasting through the mirrors. Dude, what the hell? I said. Cal changed lanes. The sedan changed with him. Cal turned into a gas station. The sedan turned too. Cal exhaled sharply. This guy's playing games. He called another officer, who said he'd head our way. But for some reason, maybe instinct, maybe anger, Cal pulled over on a quiet road. Stay in the car, he warned. The sedan screeched to a stop behind us. A figure stepped out. Tall, hooded, wearing some kind of skull-patterned mask. Cal, don't open the door, I whispered. The masked man walked fast, gripping something long and metal in his hand. He slammed the object against Cal's window. Get out, pig, the man yelled, voice distorted but full of rage. Get out and face me. Cal didn't move. The man hit the window again, cracking it. Cal, drive, I shouted. But the window shattered before he could. The masked man reached inside. Cal reacted instantly, kicking the door open, sending the man sprawling into the gravel. The weapon, a tire iron, flew out of his hand. Cal pinned him down, wrestling him, shouting at him to stay still. Within a minute, red and blue lights flashed through the dark. Another officer grabbed the masked man, handcuffing him while he thrashed and screamed. And then I saw his face. Reed. Eyes wild. Foaming with anger. Spitting on the ground. "You think you can protect him?" He screamed at me. "You think you're safer with pigs? They're gonna turn on you. I'm saving you." My hands shook uncontrollably. My wedding was the next morning. Every photo from that morning looks beautiful. But I remember feeling hollow behind every smile. Elena cried not from joy but from exhaustion. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry he did this. I'm embarrassed. I'm angry. But we can't let him ruin this day." I nodded, even though part of me was terrified. Guests took their seats. Music played softly. The sun dipped golden through the windows. We made it through the vows. We made it through the kiss. We made it through the speeches. And for a moment, it felt like light finally pierced all the darkness. But something in me stayed haunted. Haunted by the fact that Reed truly believed he was saving us. Haunted that monsters aren't always strangers. Sometimes, they share your blood. I didn't expect to end up back in Riverview Springs, my hometown, after nearly 14 years away. I only came because of a wedding invitation. And not just any wedding. The wedding of my old college roommate. A guy I practically lived with for 4 years and hadn't spoken to in 8. His name was Trevor Walsh, and when his envelope arrived in the mail, cream-colored paper, gold lettering, the whole fancy vibe, I honestly thought it was a mistake. People drift apart. People grow up. People move on. And Trevor had moved on a long time ago. But he invited me, and he even wrote a note inside. "Man, it would mean a lot if you came. Big day, big changes. Hope you're doing good, T." Back then, Trevor was like a brother. The type of guy you could call at 3 a.m. when your car died or your heart broke. He'd show up in basketball shorts and slippers, talking trash the whole time but helping anyway. We drifted after college for reasons that weren't dramatic, just life swallowing us in different directions. I never expected to see him again. And I definitely never expected what happened next. The weird part is, I wasn't even going to accept. I live in Knoxville now. I've built a life there. I work remotely in tech. I have a girlfriend, Reese, and things are mostly smooth. Mostly. Reese had a huge conference that same weekend in Phoenix, so I would have had to go alone. Normally, that'd be a deal breaker for me, because the idea of walking into a wedding solo, with everyone hugging and introducing their spouses, sounds like pure torture. But something about Trevor's handwritten note got me. Like a pull. A nostalgia tug. A stupid sense of loyalty I didn't realize was still inside me. So I RSVP'd. And 2 weeks ago, I packed a small bag, drove 5 hours north, past the "Welcome to Riverview Springs" sign, and felt like I was re-entering a past version of my life. The town was the same. Same diner. Same grocery store. Same cracked sidewalks. But I wasn't the same. Or maybe I wasn't as changed as I thought. If you want to understand why the wedding night haunts me, you have to understand Lily Graves. Lily was my ex. Not a short-term fling. Not a casual thing. We dated for 9 years from senior year of high school all the way into my late 20s. We were practically engaged. People would joke that we'd already acted married, because she practically lived at my place. Everyone thought she'd be my forever. Hell, I thought she'd be my forever. Until she wasn't. Our breakup wasn't dramatic at first. It was mutual, sad, emotional. The kind of breakup where you sit on the couch for hours saying things like, "I don't want this, but I think we have to. We're not the same people anymore. We're hurting each other by trying to force what doesn't fit." But then something changed in her. Something broke. And what followed was, honestly, terrifying. She would wait outside my gym. Show up unannounced at my office. Send paragraphs of text that would go from, "I miss you," to "You ruined my life," to "You owe me," within minutes. She once sat outside my apartment door for 5 hours. Another time, she followed me to a date I went on 6 months after we broke up, confronted the girl in the parking lot, and told her, "He's mine. He always will be." It escalated so badly that her own mother begged me to file a restraining order. So I did. That was 4 years ago. I haven't seen Lily since the court hearing, but her shadow stayed with me in ways I never fully admitted. The wedding was at Canyon Ridge Chapel, this picturesque little stone church that looked like it was ripped from a magazine but smelled like old hymn books and dust. I got there early, mostly to avoid awkward small talk. But small talk found me anyway. Holy crap, look who crawled out of whatever tech cave he fell in. I turned and saw Caleb, one of my old college friends. He hugged me in that overly aggressive man-hug way and immediately started grilling me about life like no time had passed. We joked, we laughed, we talked about stupid old memories. For a minute, everything felt normal. Then, completely out of nowhere, he said the sentence that almost knocked me over. Dude, did you hear Lily's coming? It felt like the air was sucked out of the church. Wait, what? I asked. Caleb blinked, confused by my reaction. Yeah, man. She's tied with Trevor's fiancé. They work at the same non-profit or something. Small world, right? My stomach flipped. My palms got sweaty instantly. Caleb saw my face and went, "Oh, damn. You two ended bad, huh?" "You could say that," I muttered. He gave me a sympathetic nod. "Just keep distance. Weddings get people weird." He had no idea how right he was. I sat in the back pew. The place filled up fast. Music played. People whispered. Bridesmaids floated down the aisle. But my eyes scanned the room for one person. And then I saw her. Lily. Sitting on the right side, halfway up, wearing a soft blue dress, hair longer than I remembered, posture eerily stiff. She wasn't with anyone. She wasn't talking. She was just staring forward. Expression blank. My chest tightened. Memories punched their way back up from places I'd buried them. She didn't look toward me once. Maybe she hadn't seen me. Maybe she didn't care. Maybe she'd changed. Maybe. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Trevor cried. His bride, Harper, looked stunning. People clapped and sniffled and whispered, "Oh," but I barely registered any of it. I couldn't stop looking at Lily, even though she wasn't looking at me. After the ceremony, everyone spilled out onto the church steps taking pictures, hugging, cheering. I was standing near my car when I heard a voice behind me say, "Hey, can we talk?" I turned. It was her, Lily. My brain froze. My heart sprinted. She looked normal, scarily normal. Hey," I managed. "It's been a long time." "Yeah." She smiled, not wide, not fake, just soft. "I'm glad you're here. I've wanted to talk to you for a long time." My guard shot up instantly. "About what?" I asked. She took a breath. "I'm sorry. For everything. I was in a really dark place. I scared you. I scared myself. I'm not proud of any of it." Her voice was steady, sincere, almost rehearsed but not in a creepy way. "I'm different now," she continued. "I've been in therapy. I've grown up. I needed to say sorry. And thank you. Because letting me go forced me to figure myself out. I didn't know what to say. I just nodded and answered, 'I appreciate that. Really. I'm glad you're better.'" She smiled faintly. "Maybe we can talk later? Catch up a little?" "Sure," I said. At the reception, it felt like a weight lifted from me. Maybe people really do change. Maybe this wouldn't be the nightmare I feared. God. I was so wrong. The venue was Lakeshore Hall, overlooking the lake, decorated with fairy lights and rustic wooden beams, every Pinterest bride's dream. The reception started off amazing. Open bar, good food, old friends, laughter everywhere. For the first hour, I forgot all the anxiety. But then I noticed Lily drifting around the room, always alone, always watching. Not staring, just observing. Every time I walked near her area, she'd shift, like she was about to approach me. But someone else would grab me, an old friend, a cousin of the groom, someone wanting to reminisce. Around 9 p.m., I finally decided to sit and talk with her, just to get it over with. She was alone at a table, swirling a wine glass in small circles. "Mind if I join?" I asked. She looked up and smiled instantly. Of course. We talked. About work. About family. About old memories that didn't hurt anymore. Then she asked, lightly and casually. So, are you seeing anyone? Yeah, I said, smiling. Her name's Reese. We've been together 2 years. Her expression shifted, not visibly angry, just dimmer. Oh, she said quietly. That's great. She wasn't smiling anymore. You okay? I asked. She nodded, too quickly. Yeah. I just sorry. I thought you might have still been single. Why would you think that? I laughed. She shrugged. Some people just don't move on so fast. The words cut sharper than they should have. She noticed my reaction and sighed. Sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Ignore me. We talked more. It got better. She seemed genuinely calmer. When the DJ announced last call, I stood and hugged her. It really was good seeing you, I told her. You too, she whispered. She looked like she meant it. She looked healed. And that was my mistake. A bunch of us walked to a bar a block away. Lily didn't come. She said she had an early morning. I didn't question it. By 2 a.m., I headed back to my car at the reception venue. When I got there, something felt off. The driver's door wasn't fully shut. Not wide open, just cracked. I frowned. I never leave it like that. I scanned the inside through the window. Nothing looked disturbed. Must have been in a rush earlier, I muttered. I got in, turned on the engine, and drove off. Didn't think twice about it. Should have thought twice. Should have thought 10 times. The roads were mostly empty. It was late. Slight drizzle. Streetlights glowing like halos. But halfway home, I noticed headlights behind me. A dark SUV. Not riding my bumper. Not speeding. Just there. Every turn I made, it made. Every lane shift I did, it copied. Always a few car lengths back. My chest tightened with a familiar anxiety I hadn't felt in years. But when I turned onto my street, the SUV kept going. I brushed it off. Just paranoia. Or so I thought. I got inside, dropped my keys in the dish, kicked off my shoes, and flopped onto the couch to check messages from earlier. That's when I heard it. A car door. Close. Too close. I froze. My neighborhood was full of elderly folks who go to bed by 8 p.m. This was wrong. I muted my phone, stood up slowly, peered toward the front door. The deadbolt was locked. The handle was still. I exhaled. Then, the handle twitched. Just barely. Just enough to make my stomach collapse. Someone was trying to come in. Very slowly. Very deliberately. I stepped closer, heart hammering in my throat. Then, the deadbolt started to turn. From the outside, my blood turned to ice. Someone had a key. I reacted on instinct, threw my shoulder into the door just as the bolt clicked open. The door cracked inward. An inch or two, but I shoved back with everything I had. A shriek came from the other side. High-pitched, female. I slammed the door again, locked it, and sprinted to the window. A figure bolted toward a blue SUV parked on the curb. Blonde hair. Thin frame. Light blue dress. Lily. She threw herself into the driver's seat and sped off. Tires screeching. My hands shook so violently I barely managed to dial 911. They came. They listened. They didn't care. Sir, you didn't get a clear visual confirmation of her face. No, but... And she claims she's been home asleep. She lied. Unfortunately, without more evidence, there isn't much we can do. I wanted to scream. They promised to document the incident. That was it. I changed my locks the next morning. Installed a Ring camera. Double-checked every window. Triple-checked the back door. I told Reese everything. She was furious and scared. 2 weeks have passed. Nothing else has happened. No SUV. No attempts. No calls. No messages. No sightings. But every night, when I lie in bed, I think about one thing. If I hadn't slammed the door, if she had stepped inside, if I had gone home earlier, if she had followed me inside my car, what was she planning? Was it impulse? Or had she rehearsed it? And, worst of all, did she take something when she was inside my car? Because I'm sure, absolutely sure, that I locked that door when I left the church. And Lily was the only person near it. Something tells me this isn't over. Something tells me she's waiting. And something tells me the wedding wasn't a coincidence. It was the invitation she needed. To get close again. To finish whatever she started years ago. I pray I'm wrong. But people like Lily don't change. They just learn how to hide it better.